All right, all right. As Chad just said, we are now live, the Big Green Real Estate Talk here for another episode. Thank you guys. Hope all the holidays were wonderful. Chad, what's our topic for today?
Today we're swinging off with why are realtor commissions so much money? Is that something that you've always wondered? Why do I have to pay a real estate broker, brokerage, agent, so much for their services? And that is something that, I've heard a few times before. Uh, I don't want to pay that much for commission. I don't want to pay that much for you to list my home. Is there something else we can do? And so with that, Tyler, over in your market in Florida. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. By the way, this is Big Green Real Estate Talk live from San Antonio, Texas. I'm a real estate agent here in the greater San Antonio area, Southern Texas. Also, Tyler's over there in the Southwest Florida market.
Represent.
Huh?
Represent.
That's right.
Southwest Florida here.
That's right.
So just I think where you were kind of headed, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had to represent there, Southwest Florida. Just to kind of give you insight on this. I know that you're asking about a market. So a lot of people right now, and I know sellers listen. I know you want your money, right? I get it. You want to get every dollar you can possibly get. And I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. Every realtor, every brokerage, everything is so different. There's so many ways to, you can cut this up to say, this is the way that I prefer to do it. Why do we charge so much money, right? But the answer to your question is this. This is what I'm going to explain to everybody that's asking, okay? Is that with me and Chad, I want to hear your side after this, but with me and the way that I do things, I actually have a package deal. And you can choose the lower one, you can choose the medium, or you can choose the high one. But the difference in all these three different packages that you're choosing from is actually how much you're going to be paying. Now, I'll get into the next line of this because I could really dive deeper, but I want to go based on what we kind of got outlined, and I'll come back around when I'm talking about the buyer side. But for now, you pick a package, and basically in my packages, I will do X, Y, Z, and each package is built differently. So that's the way I do it.
Well, that's an interesting strategy. I've never really done that over here. That's, we all run our businesses differently as real estate agents. It's up to you how you want to approach the table, so to speak. Uh, so with me, uh, as a real estate agent here in San Antonio, I use different strategies right now because I'm growing my business. I'm learning some of the ins and outs of how to strategize uh, when getting the most value out of my time, but also providing the highest uh, caliber of service to a client, to a potential client. You want to make sure that you're providing, proper marketing, proper contract law, uh, direction, uh, proper negotiation tactics. And when I say that word, I kind of use it a little loosely. It's all ethical, it's all behavioral upon, business and upon what the seller or the owner feels comfortable with. And so sometimes you have owners who are trying to save money. Maybe they don't have a lot of equity in the home. In those cases, I could see where they would want to go with a 1% broker looking to save some money. And our jobs as real estate agents is to serve the client's needs before our own. We have a fiduciary obligation to make sure that the clients are taken care of, top priority, regardless of how much a real estate agent is paid. A lot of people are under a misconception that they have to pay 6%, and they don't. Straight up, the fact is fact, they don't. And it's a standard that we've created across the industry way before I was born, probably. and probably it'll be happening way before I die, way after I die. But it's going to continue to stay some type of standard for, keep the peace, as they like to say, right? Um, but go ahead. I think you were going on
Yeah,
about your
no, that's
packages.
great. I mean, that's great information. Now, the one thing that I want to really bring up, and so there's no set standard, as Chad was basically stating, but a lot of people have their own mindset on what they're used to hearing people charging or whatever. It's like, when you hear something for sale of a product in a store, it's always $5.99, $6.99, $8.99. You always know there's a 99 on there, unless you go to Walmart, then it's 98, or something of that level, right? So people have created that own misconception of that. So now, Chad, you touched on this, and I want to go back to this concept really quick. Is that you're talking about those 1% brokers and so forth. So one thing that I have seen, okay, is that um, these 1% brokers that can be there, or even let's say 0% listing. And I'm going to try to go into this and Chad, you can interrupt me and do whatever you got to do, because I kind of want to make sure that that I'm under the guidelines of what the difference is, right, and make sure that we stay on that topic. But when it comes to the 0 or 1% brokerage versus the person who's gonna, let's just say like myself, who's gonna give you that package deal. So listings for 0% means that you're listing it for 0% for those type of brokerages, right?
Right.
However, the thing about that is that even though you might be only at 1% or 0%, the thing is that you're still going to have to pay the buyer's uh, side with them. So in other words, they are still having to pay the buyer, right? They're going to say they recommend you to pay this much or whatever it is. They're going to set a recommendation for what you got to pay for the buyer. Now, on the traditional side, okay, when I give you the option to choose between A, B, and C package, I say it's going to be, let's say, 5%, 5.5, 6, or even 7, and you get everything in there. Then I factor in that I'm going to pay that buyer agent essentially. So you're essentially still having to pay a buyer agent in a long way, but you're not actually paying them, because it's actually going to come out of my end in the long term as a traditional. Plus, I'm doing a lot more marketing than what the other people are doing. They're really just listing it in a sense of what an MLS technically does today, which is pushing out the Trulio, Zillow, and all these other online websites. That's all they're doing. And that's why they're able to do it for that, because then what they do is if they're charging you 0%, they're actually charging you a flat rate at some point somewhere. So that's the key. So they're doing it for a flat rate, but doing less work, as opposed to the traditional way. We're out there going, and I'm going to say this. I mean, it's balls to the wall. That's plain as I can say it. We're going and making sure your house is getting sold. We're going to make sure you get the top dollar. We're going to negotiate it. We're not expecting you or anybody else to write the contract. We're going to make sure the contract works for you. And that's my point. And sometimes when you have a salary worker or an hourly worker, you're not always getting that same type of satisfaction. I know that I go to my client's house at 8 o'clock at night if I have to, 9 o'clock at night, depending on the scenario. If I think it's an emergency, try to give them type of people a call. You're not going to get the same service. So it boils down to what type of service you're really expecting when you sell your house. Do you want just to save you dollars and don't worry about the service and hope to God it sells? Or do you want some kind of service? And I mean, does that sound about right, Chad?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's many things that, that come up during the process, and whether or not you're covered under 1% or 6%. Like you kind of broke it down a little bit further, which is good, because a lot of people don't know that you have to pay the buyer agent out of that commission. And if you don't know how much, you're going to be selling your house for, there's a lot of variables that have to be considered when you're walking into, that relationship with with whichever broker you choose. And in my case, uh, the 1% brokers, on my case, like you were talking about, is what they call referral programs. Um, they've benefited me personally because I can build relationships with people. It does allow them to get a hardworking, real estate agent for a little bit more of affordable price. Uh, but personally, I can't afford to do that long term because there are marketing costs, there are operating expenses, there are regular business expenses that come into play that are not calculated when it comes to the 1% brokers.
Yeah, and that's my whole point is that because of those things, it's hard it's hard to really throw your effort, right? It's really hard to throw your effort into something if if the money's not there, or it's hard to even throw. I mean, here's the thing. When it comes to a realtor, really, we are a marketing phenomenon, right? That's our job as a listing agent, right? We're just talking about the listing side right now because that's the whole point of these commissions, right? We're talking about when you list a house with a realtor, you're, on all honesty, what you're doing is you're paying for marketing at the end. So here's another thing. Let me back up just a second because this is a very valid and important scenario too. So there's companies out there, or brokerages, however, that will say, you know what, you pay us, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get A, B, C, D, F, G, and we're only going to charge you $1,500. Well, that doesn't mean you're getting paid. You're not paying the 1,500 at the big end of the sale. You're paying it up front, and they're going to do all those things for you at $1,500 up front, whether your house sells or not, and you're still going to have to pay uh, out to a buyer agent because that's the only way that you're going to be able to do it. As opposed to just saying, hey, I'm already going to have to pay X percent and I'm paying X more to get all the marketing to go with it. And I don't have to worry about anything. That's the traditional way. And some of the other ones are really nice when it comes to doing everything else. So I don't think that it's a issue in all when it comes to these brokerages that want to do that. That's kind of my. I know that Chad, you deal with a lot of referral based business, right? And that's awesome. But at what point do you feel like you're doing everything that you possibly can for that brokerage? I mean, have you ever seen something like with a 0%? And how, if so, how does that work for you on the 0% side?
I have personally never seen the 0% yet. Um, I've heard of it. I haven't dabbled into that business model too much. Now, to answer your question, though, that's a great question as far as, do I feel like I've provided full service for the client at 1%? The textbook answer is yes. The, you know, the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed. We got their home sold at the highest market value in a short amount of time. I did my best. Will there be a scenario that happens where 1%, or is there a scenario where 1% listing fee that I'm charging a client is enough to really fulfill the obligation of getting that home sold at the highest market value in the quickest amount of time? The answer is not all the time. And the reason is because some things are harder to sell than others, simply because of the fact that there's not that perfect buyer that is ready to buy that particular property at this given price at this current time. You either have to wait for that buyer to appear, or you have to market that property across many channels these days. Social media is saturated with ads. If they've seen your house, they've seen five houses, you know. Um, so a matter of trying to figure out which avenue is best for the client. Obviously, like you just said, having packages in place is a benefit not only to you as an agent running your business, but also um, to the client, because I believe one of your packages includes, a bidding war, which is a great opportunity for anyone who wants to pay 7%, to have that as an opportunity to sell their home faster at the highest market value. That's what I'm talking about. That is a category that falls into the 7% realm, because there's a lot of work that goes into that. You have to set up the signs or buy the signs. You have to get your lender out there, buy them lunch, buy them, you know, something to subside the hunger pains halfway through the day. There's all the back end stuff that even as a consumer or as a client, I never realized until I sold my home in 2019, last year, before COVID hit. I had my home on the market. Man, it was on for 3 months, and I was getting concerned because I'm like, well, what else do we need to do? I even out of my own pocket, this shows you how serious I was. I paid out of my own pocket for a professional photographer to come take photos of the home, because the real estate agent that I hired, he didn't even take professional photos.
Yeah, and that's the funny part. So it's funny you bring that up even. So I have learned my lesson. So let me just give you this is a quick little story I can share. And when I first started into real estate, I got a listing and I went to go try to take my own photos. Well, I realized something very quickly after I went to go take those photos. I was a marketing guru slash realtor, right? Not a photographer. See how none of that was in that mix. So
Right.
so here's what I did. I got another listing, and on that next listing, it was an 800 square foot condo. You know what I did? Even though it's an 800 foot square condo, I treated it as if it was the $1 million home, and I went and got a photographer and paid for it. Why? Because it's going to pay for itself because of that very reason. Because if I don't do that, then that's problem. And then another thing, all the strategies of marketing, Facebook, we're hit. I mean, you got to find a realtor. If you're out there, you don't have to pick me. You don't have to pick Chad. But sorry, Chad, I'm just being honest with him. But you don't
Yeah.
have to pick us. But I will tell you that Chad and I both have a very extensive digital marketing background. And we have been to many conferences together to know that what works and what does not when it comes to digital marketing. So whether you're out there and you're contemplating whether to take on a realtor or not, you need to see where they're at. I mean, if they say they come into the room and say, why do you want, why should I pick you? And the first thing out of their mouth is, well, I got 20 years experience. 20 years experience. You know how much has changed in 20 years? I mean,
Right.
I'm just saying that the same strategies. Are you changed with the curve? I mean, 20 years experience does not sell me. Okay, knowing what I know today, 20 years experience does not. It does the experience help when it comes to certain situations? Absolutely. That's why I have, and Chad and I both have aligned ourselves with people that have the experience needed in hard situations. But for the marketing aspect, that's you got to find out where they lie with that. Are they one of those agents that just want your business so they can list and forget it and not do anything else? Those are out there. There's so many ways to really put that out there. But I think that it's very important, which I'm going to kind of lead into this. I'm really going to drive this point home. I think we touched on the second topic that we kind of wanted to cover with this whole topic in general.
Mhm.
Um, but to segue into this, what I will tell you is that right now, why don't why do buyers, or let me rephrase this, why don't buyers pay for their agent, and why are the sellers paying? Right? This is a big question. It gets asked all the time, and let me give you an answer. Remember when I was talking about it from the very beginning, what we were discussing, and I brought up the fact that I pay for the buyer agent, right? When you pick a package with me, regardless of what package you pick, you get marketing and you automatically get the buyer agent fee out of that package. So I don't discount my fee and say, well, you're paying me 7%, but you got to pay 3% to the buyer. No, I'm taking that in account. Let's say my marketing does very well and I bring the buyer to the table. Well, guess what? Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I don't. The only thing that changes, I get to make a little bit extra money, but my work ethic paid off in a lot better way. The good news is if some other agent brings a buyer to the table, guess what changed? Nothing again. Why? Because I'm taking care of it out of the package that you chose, right? That's the way that I do it. Because at the end of the day, you pick a package is going to be a how hard you want me to work for you, and how much you really want me to throw that in there, and how much marketing do you want exposure, and how much this is another thing, and I'm gonna throw this one out there for those FISBOs out there that know what they're doing. And I know there's a lot of them to hear them tell it. So here's what I'm gonna tell you, and I'm not putting you guys down. I'm not saying you don't know. Well, maybe I am, but I am going to say this: is that when it comes time to write a contract, I had this question be asked in a YouTube video of a guy. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was watching a YouTube video and he was going through how you can do everything yourself, which is true. We have covered this topic of how to do it yourself. But the one thing that left me puzzled in the comment section when I was going through there is they said, and this isn't a FISBO, if the buyer says, if we don't have an agent and you don't have an agent, who does the contract? Well, so the question becomes,
Riddle me
who does?
this, Batman.
Yeah, exactly. So the question then says, oh, you can just get an attorney. Sure, you can get an attorney, but who's the attorney working for now? Is it for the seller or is it for the buyer? Who's got the fair advantage? Because he's not using the same NAR, which is the National Realtor Association contract that, or let me not say that. It's not the, but the state contract, right? That has been going through tons and tons of legal based on the Realtors Associations and up and down, and making it fair for both sides, and to make sure that everything's there, and to make sure that the realtors understand those contracts, and make sure that it is fair for their party of representation or both parties of representation that's happening. So that's the difference. So again, when you're out there, who does the contract? Did you sign a deal and it didn't go through? Hey, comment. Let us know. I'm down to hear anybody's situation. Let me know. If you're a FISBO and you did sell a house, let me know how you handle the contract without either realtor being involved. I'm curious, because it opens up to a lot of liability for the FISBO and a lot of problems to the potential buyer or buyer at that point.
Very well said. I agree 100%. No doubt about that. That's what we're here for, you know. So when you ask, well, why do I have to pay so much? There's a lot that goes into it that a lot of people don't understand. And that's why we're here to kind of advocate for that.
Yeah, not to get too thrown in, wrapped up in all the everything else going on in the world, but I'm going to tell you something. The government puts real estate agents, and I've said this numerous times.
Mm.
The government allows us to get a license, and the license becomes a liability factor for the state. So what does that mean? That means that we're here to serve individuals so people don't get ripped off, and our license is up for grabs by the state for a liability factor. If anything does go wrong, that's what the first thing that people go after if they think that they've been bamboozled by the realtor. And that's where we're at. This is where we're at as far as being held accountable. I mean, so I mean, we get paid depending on the deal. It could be, it could be $1,000. It could be, $200. Depending on the deal. The point of the idea of all this is that we're here. Chad and I'll speak for us. We're here trying to help anybody who's looking to buy or sell a home, no matter what the situation is. And we're here. We'll tell you. And I walk away from a deal quick. I don't take every deal. I'll walk away from a deal if I think it's a shady deal. If I think it's kinky, whatever, I walk away. That's as simple as that. I don't stay with it, because at the end of the day, we're here to do a job, and that's market your property if you're selling it, or help you, get into it. And that's with contracts and training. And we do tons of training that's required by the state every single year. So that's just the way it works.
Well, that's a good point, man. I mean, training is important, right? The certifications that I have. In fact, today I had to talk to an investor. He was like, Chad, how's your number on this property so high? He's like, because I'm only getting 170. And I said, well, I was like, how are you getting your comps? And he showed me all these homes that were not recently rehabbed. And I said, well, there's why. I was like, you're not looking at the right homes to value your flip. So even investors need, you know, to pay a commission to sell the home properly. Otherwise, they're getting screwed, you know, on one side of the platform, whether it's when they go to buy the house for too much or whether they go to relist it and don't get all the value out of it, because a lot of investors like to go ahead and just do it themselves just to save on that commission, and a lot of them leave equity on the table they don't even know about.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that not for nothing. I know that this what you just said leads me into a whole nother topic, but we're going to save that topic for future. Be tuned in, because if you see a title in any of our podcasts or anything that we got up and coming that has anything to do with a wholesaler, oh man, you need to join in. If you see that topic on our podcast, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you join in on that, you're gonna see some good stuff there, because I got a lot of questions uh, that we may have somebody. I don't know. I really want to. I know I don't want to dive too deep into it, but yeah,
Right.
wholesaling is a whole nother ball game. I won't get into that. The only thing that triggered that was the fact you said money left on the table. Um, because I'm gonna tell you something. That's not far fetched. People go out there every day and they think that they're gonna sell it for top dollar. It may not be worth top dollar, or better yet, they might have a bad situation and they're trying to hurry up and sell, and they'll do anything. They're desperate, and a whole nother subject matter. But I will tell you that yes, you can leave money on the table, or you may be not selling because you're overpriced, and you'll never know until you step in front of somebody for realtor. Don't go by it based off of Zillow, but because Zillow, the estimates are so far gone. I honestly, if I see a Zestimate, I'm like, okay, it has to be, and I say it's far gone because they're 20 plus over or 20 plus under sometimes, and 20,000 is a big deal. That's not that's like huge. You shouldn't be that far off.
Wait. You're saying that Zillow estimates are not accurate?
Yeah, exactly,
Oh my
exactly.
God. I
That's
never knew that. I've always been basing the prices off all my homes off of Zillow's estimates. You know what? In fact, one of the things I was going to ask Santa for this year was a red dragon. I wondered if he'll give it to me.
yeah, maybe they may be doing it. Uh, I tell you though, it's the truth. I mean, you don't just. Oh my gosh, guys, if you're listening, don't do Zillow. Zillow is estimate. I know you guys think that Zestimate is the king of all kings of the gospel out there, but please don't do it. And then another thing, just one last thing, and I'll let you wrap it up, Chad. But one last thing I'm going to throw out there is I had a guy. This is a story. I actually had a guy list his house, and one thing that he did when he listed his house was he put on there that he had a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and I went to go look it up, and I'm like, no, he has a 2 bedroom and a den. That's a problem, because now you can't advertise. And it wasn't like the den was a closet or the den had enough square feet. It wasn't any of those. It just was a den. There was nothing to even try to say that this was rehabbed into a bedroom. So with that being said, guys, make sure if you're out there, you're going to do for sale by owner, because everybody sometimes wants to try their hand to make and save their money, but really you're going to spend some money getting the contract done. You're going to spend some money on just there's so many things to the transaction. I'm not trying to scare anybody away if they want to do it themselves, but I will tell you at a minimum, if you're not going to use a realtor, go consult an attorney in your area, a real estate attorney.
Yeah, that's true. You definitely need an attorney sometimes. In fact, there's a case right now that we had a potential client call us, and she said, "Hey, I want to sell the rear portion of my land." And I'm like, "Okay." I look at it on the satellite. I was like, "Well, are you telling me that there's a house in front of your land?" She said, "Yeah." And they won't help me. She said they won't put an easement on their, from their land to mine. And I said, "Well, you got a landlocked case. You need to contact a real estate attorney." you know I mean, I probably spent 30, 45 minutes just kind of piecing everything together, emailing her, calling her, figuring everything out. I mean, that's time. Time is money. And without that information, she wouldn't have known. She was over here saying, "Well, I want to see how much my land is worth." I'm like, "Well, it ain't worth anything. You can't even drive on it."
Yeah, and that's
So,
a fact. I mean, that's true. And these things, we're not attorneys by no means, just throwing that as a disclaimer. But I will tell you that we may tell you to consult with something because of something just don't sound right. Just like Chad said, hey, you might want to go get an attorney because that don't sound right. That doesn't make sense. So, and you're right, the land ain't worth nothing if you can't even get to it.
So some people don't know what they don't know, right? That was one of my old mentors, bless his heart. He said that all the time. Um, so, well, anyway, I don't know if I have anything else. I think we've kind of hit our notch here on the 30. Did you have anything else you want to go over?
No, man, I think we covered it pretty good. I mean, I really was, certain topics, guys, you'll see my energy just flow through this microphone just because I get so wrapped up in some of the stuff that I deal with on a regular. And I think this was definitely one of them. At least I felt that way. If you guys out there, listen, by the way, check out my YouTube channel if you want to see any of the Big Green Talk. Leave comments, leave questions, leave whatever it is you got, and I'll be more than happy. Chad will be too. Check our YouTube channel out. Mine, you just search Tyler Triplett on YouTube. That'll come up, and you'll see all the Big Green real estate talk there. And then same with Chad, you'll be seeing some stuff come up there on limited. Oh my gosh, Chad, I can't even say your name. Go ahead, I'll let you do your own thing.
Yes, sir. Limitless Realty Group, veteran owned and operated over here in San Antonio, Texas. Please subscribe to our channel, and thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys, and you guys have a wonderful evening. And if you're listening to this, subscribe to us on the Google Podcast and iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening to. Please subscribe. We plan on having more information. So next Wednesday, we're trying to get between 6:30 and 7. I know today we ran late, just to kind of throw that out there. If you guys were expecting a 6:30, but we are going to be planning on doing 6:30 every Wednesday at this point. So just throwing that out there. But anyways, thank you guys for joining in, and we'll talk to you next week.